Hello, Africam fam. How are we all doing? I am very excited to be joining you for the show today because it has been quite a busy day, quite a busy week, in fact. And I know for lots of you, the day is just beginning. So maybe you have a tough day ahead, maybe you have a busy day ahead, maybe you've got a relaxing day ahead. Whatever it is, I'm sure that a little glimpse into the African bush is going to make you feel a lot better and definitely going to help you through the day. And we've got some hellos coming through already, and that's because we're live and interactive. So please continue to send those through. We're starting off at Tau, by the way, looking at the zebra, just doing their thing. I also want you to notice how the bush is starting to change already. And we discussed this I think it was the last Africam show, as well as some of the wild moments over the last couple of weeks, where we spoke about how there has been so much rain. So the water table is still pretty high, and we don't have a ton of aquifers in this corner of the world that can really fill up and have a stock of underground water that feeds all our river systems and water holes. But we do have significant water tables, at least when we have good rains. So all that water sinks into the ground. The more vegetation cover that we have, the more root systems that there are that create little channels that can help the actual ground store water. And then also remember that different soil types can also hold on to water differently. And now I'm getting very into something without even saying hello to you properly. So let's go to the hellos first while we zoom in on the, oh, do we have an elephant there? Yes, we do. So first up, we have Jean Gale that says, "You're here, getting your coffee ready." Very nice. Gordon J, you say, "Good morning, everyone." Good morning, Gordon. Casper's Third Ghost, you say, "Happy Tuesday, Trish and everyone." You've got your hot coffee ready. I am boring as usual, and I've just got a glass of water. It's just still water this time, though. I'm not being fancy. Normally, I have fancy sparkling water. Oso Negro, you say, "Good morning, afternoon from cloudy 5 degrees Celsius, British Columbia." My goodness. That is too close to zero for my blood. Dear NC, you say good morning, Trish, and everyone ready for the show with a hot cup of coffee. April Al says good morning, everyone from sunny Connecticut with your raspberry iced tea. Very nice. And your kitty by your side. Love it. MG Leopard Spots, you say hi all, happy to be here with your ice water ready for the show. Bowl of Kittens says hello, Trishala, Africamers, and explorers. Great to be making the show live today. Lovely. I know sometimes it's difficult to catch the show live because it's a live show, so you have to come at the specific time, and I know lots of you watch it afterwards as well. Either way, it's beneficial, but I do love it when it's live. We get to have a real unscripted conversation. So thanks for joining live, Bowl of Kittens. We've got a lovely elephant enjoying the water, and I feel so going back to the conversation we started earlier about different soil types, different elevation, slope, basically the geography of an area and the geology of an area greatly affects how much water can be stored underground. Well, not even underground, but even in plants and things like that. So at the moment, we are going into the dry season. There might be a bit of rain here and there, but soon we will be well and truly into the dry season. And that means that we will have very little rainfall, and the wild will have to do with what was captured over the wet season. At the moment, you can see that things are looking really full still, which is a wonderful sign. A couple years ago, we were going through a bit of a drought, and that our wet season wasn't, maybe drought is a bit of an exaggeration, but our wet season wasn't as wet as we would like, and our dry season was quite severe. So that meant that within a month of the dry season, things like water levels were starting to drop noticeably. And this is just, it's part of the whole cycle in the wild. Oh, excuse me. I just had a sunflower seed, well, several sunflower seeds before the show started. And sometimes it gets caught in your throat. Excuse me for 1 second. I think I'm good. So don't laugh. Kirsty's laughing at me. Hang on, I need to drink some water. I've been sunflower seeds you can't stop sometimes. They're the ones that are in the still in the case, and you get to bite the case and eat the seed. I love it, like a little hamster. Anyway, during that time, water levels were dropping noticeably, and then this is not unusual. This is something that comes in cycles. It depends on greater geological and climatological effects, things like El Nino, La Nina, whether we're in those years. Even droughts and floods have their cycles as well. Oh, over we go to Timber. So it's not a shocker when it happens, but it can be devastating. So this year things are still looking great. We've had a great good season, a great wet season. And it's sort of when you think about it, there's like these negative feedback loops and then positive feedback loops. And oftentimes we don't get to see the positive feedback loops too often because we kind of focus on the negative. That's kind of how we are. But if we have a good rainy season like we've just had, we've got a lot of water in the ground and the water is held in the ground than that. Oh, that's one way to scratch yourself. I mean, to be honest, I have been guilty of something similar to this. I was scratching myself. Sorry about that, guys. Just a little glitch. But this elephant, this bull got really quite irritated by that one that was rubbing up against him. And I don't blame him at all. Before we got cut off, I was just greeting Green 11 and Jack De Boer for coming on board as well. Oh, I hope all is well. Maybe I'll get a message from Kirst to just let me know. Ah, okay. All good. There we go. Nice. Sometimes when I think about the cameras and our live feed and all of that, not that I'm technical in that kind of way at all, but I think about myself as a guide or the animals that are out here and the conditions that we have to experience. It can be really cold in the morning. It can be very wet. It can be very, very dry, very dusty, very humid. And then I sort of get a new appreciation for the tech that we put up in different places to allow us this window into the bush. They must go through a lot. Like, remember the camera during the heavy rains up in the Lowveld and the camera at Olifants River just was gone. The river took it. Dang. Just to close up that conversation that we were talking about, the more rainfall we get, the better the vegetation grows, the deeper the roots grow, the more vegetation cover we may expect, and then the greater amount of water can be held in the ground for dry spells. So when I see a beginning of a dry season looking like this, I think that it's going to be a good one. Not just for this season, but potentially for the next couple seasons. Maybe altering the lands, yes, altering the landscape for for decades with stronger, deeper root systems, stabilizing everything, preventing more runoff, erosion. I mean, honestly, vegetation cover is a great thing. The loss of it can cause cascading effects, and regenerating it can do marvelous things for an environment. Oh, here we go. We've got some butt to butt. This is a cereal conspecific butt scratcher. This also leads me to something else. So when we do, when it is a very good wet season and we have all this vegetation and there are fewer dry, scratchy stumps around, what does one do? This is not the solution. Do not scratch yourself on your family members or herd members. There's always a stump to be found. In fact, we get scratching or rubbing posts, and they're very clear to see. Oh, I don't know if I'm seeing something between. Okay, so you see the elephant in the middle of our screen? Go up from the elephant, you'll see that there's a big bush, and to the right of it, there's like a black spot, and it seemed to be moving. I don't know why it was giving me leopard feels, but elephants would have reacted very quickly to it. Ah, Kirst thinks it says she thinks it's a warthog. That's probably more likely. Kaoru also says hi. Hi, Kaoru. Thanks for joining us. So these rubbing posts are utilized by quite a few different animals, actually, but primarily by elephants and rhino. I don't know if we have a view of one of them on our cameras. I can't think of one, but they are so well polished. So it starts off as a stump. Maybe an elephant pushes down a tree, and then it's just perfect for scratching. Look at this. Why are you doing this? I'm just having a look. That looks like a cow. The one on the right, that is. I wonder if she could be an estrus. But normally, it's the males that are sort of forceful. But perhaps he is following her a bit. No, back to dust bathing. So estrus cycles actually, I think we know a lot more about must in elephant bulls than we do about elephant estrus cycles. And I must say, for myself, estrus cycles in general for mammals, because for human females, we are we know ourselves very well. We know that we have a menstrual cycle. We know our ovulation cycles. Um, but whether you're mating or not, or whether you have, if things in your environment change, it doesn't really change that menstrual cycle. Certain conditions can. But in the wild, uh, we have so, Trying to formulate my scientific thoughts here. We have a hidden ovulation cycle. So the height of our cycle is our ovulation because that's the time where we could actually fall pregnant. And our ovulation is hidden. It doesn't express itself outwardly in any way. In fact, there is evidence to suggest that women will unconsciously hide that they are ovulating. It's not like I said, it's not a conscious thing, but that we tend to swing our hips more outside of ovulation and during ovulation. It seems like a weird thing, but apparently that is so. Oh, hello, little Franco. Hello, little Franco. Wow, wow, wow. Off you go. Um, wow. Oh, this is Saldonio. It looks so green. Haven't been here in a while. With this waterhole, I often feel like we can just look at this frame and something will walk in. Uh, so with other mammals and elephants included, there is some sort of expression of an estrous cycle. Like with baboons, we know that when a female is an estrus, then she gets this swollen behind. That's a visual cue. Now, elephant estrus cycles, because I'm thinking about that elephant and wondering if she could have been an estrus and is actually trying to encourage the male to come after her and mate with her, which is not something you see often. But I'm wondering if that could be the case. So, a lot of female mammals don't have a seasonal cycle like we do. And I think elephants have the longest non-seasonal cycle, which kind of makes sense when you think about their characteristics. The long gestation period, um, longevity is high as well, parental care, fewer offspring. It all makes sense for them to have a long um, estrus cycle as well. But very similar, and I must check if we have. Let's head over to Mahali Mzuri while we have this chat and have a look at its giraffe. Oh, hey, giraffes. This is like the giraffe spot. I must check if all mammals have the same types of hormones during their estrus cycle. Because as far as I know, elephants do have like a luteal phase, a follicular phase. But I wonder if that's true for all mammals. But essentially, changes in progesterone and estrogen. Now I'm thinking a lot. But that's okay because I'm actually going to the bush tomorrow for about 2 weeks, and I will have a lot to chat about. So I'm going to do a deep dive there into estrus cycles. That should be a goodie. Oh no, Mahali Mzuri. All right, let's focus take the focus away from the science that's going on in my brain and back to what we are seeing. So the giraffe has unfortunately made its way on the other side. Let's see if we can catch up with it. I wonder if you noticed that little jump that it did to get up the hill. Thought that was very cute. When they run, it always strikes me how, so when we run and when we see many animals run as well, many animals run, they're mainly making use of their legs. That makes sense, right? But when I see a giraffe run or try to gain momentum, you see how much it uses its chest and its neck to propel itself forward. And that makes sense when you think about the weight that's carried in that part of the body. Just the neck alone can be 200, 300 kilograms. Oh, I guess the giraffe is gone, but that's okay. We are now at founders. What are you? A heron, maybe? This is type of bird. I am looking at a bird, right? For the first few seconds, I thought it was a giraffe in the distance. So Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, always a lovely spot. For me, it's the red soils. And my favorite thing about Founders, the rhinos. Definitely. Let's see, is that a heron? It's very light, maybe a gray heron. Just from the movements of the head, I can tell it's a bird. Aha, there we go. That's better. There we go. It's a gray heron. In this area, we also get black-headed herons, which can look very, very similar. But you see that black line that's on the head? Imagine that whole thing is black, the cap. I think it's got a little black cap and down the neck as well. But from a distance, it can look very much like a black-headed heron. But here we most definitely have a gray heron. Looking a tiny bit disheveled, but the winds of the Cape can do that to you. Where's Grumpy Old Man today? Grumpy Old Man asked me a couple weeks ago about birds standing on one leg, and the heron has definitely given us a good example here. Now, I'd imagine that that wind is pretty chilly, having been in the Eastern Cape. Not always pleasant, in fact, seldom pleasant, if I'm being honest. Whenever we find things out, or when we try to figure things out, rather, why an animal does this or why the planet does that, there's very rarely one answer or one reason. It's usually a combination of things and sort of a knock-on thing. Like when A happens, B happens, and B is good for C, so then C happens as well. And when it comes to birds lifting up the one leg, if we think about the fact that there's no feathers on their legs, then and the breeze is pretty chilly, then lifting one leg up into your body and being covered by the feathers, that's definitely gonna help you thermoregulate. If you're losing 80% of your body temperature from your legs because they're uncovered, I mean, you'd be saving 50% of that or 40% of your body temperature by just lifting up that one leg. Busy cleaning. Now, the other reason, and the one that is more likely, but that's why I said there's usually a combination. Oh, JJ, did you just ask that as well? Nice, JJ. So the reason we think it happens or that birds do it, initially scientists, I mean, and rightly so, thought that it would have to do with cutting down the amount of heat loss. So like I said, so if it was 100% of your heat that's being lost by your two legs, you lift one up, then that means you can save 50% of your body heat. So that makes a lot of sense. But I think it's a combination of things because since then, more studies have been done on why birds lift up that one leg, and it has less to do with thermoregulation and more to do with what's comfortable at resting. So birds seem to have a center of gravity, a low center of gravity, which makes sense. For ostriches, this is not the case because ostriches are taller and they have a higher center of gravity, so they can't rest in the same way. So for most birds, even the height of a heron, lifting up one leg allows them to balance very, very easily, almost without any effort, because their body weight can sort of rest on a single point, and that makes their body weight behave a little like a pendulum. So they could technically be swung on that leg, even if they were dead. In fact, one of the scientists that proved or supported this hypothesis, I should say, was working with dead flamingos. And even a dead flamingo on one leg could like actually swing like a pendulum. So imagine you like knock the head and it could just swing back and forth and still rest on that one leg, but with two legs, it could not do that. So more effort in terms of muscles, ligaments, physical concentration has to be put in to standing on two legs, whereas one leg seems to, for some reason, just lock in a way that allows it's like the perfect alignment of weight. So it means it takes very little effort to stand on one leg. Oh, interesting. Because I was just thinking to myself, but when the bird moves around on that one leg, surely that must throw off that weight distribution, that perfect weight distribution. Putting the head under the wing and cleaning and things like that. And as soon as I thought that, this heron had to throw down its second leg because it kind of lost balance. You look a little miserable. Yeah, it's cold and windy. Hey, Bear Happy, you would like to say, you believe that in elephants and bears, at least, it's the female that chooses which males to mate with. Is that the case with some, or all, or birds? It is definitely not the case with all. It is the case with most, I would say. Birds are a classic example in that sexual selection played such a huge role in the life of a bird and was so one-sided, not always, but very one-sided for the most part. Oh, hello, gnus. Got some wildebeest and some baboons there in the water, just on the banks there. This is Ulusaba. I really want to go to Ulusaba, everybody. Really want to. Oh, what is it with people? I was about to say with people. With the animals today rubbing themselves on others' butts or vice versa. Right. So be happy. Birds are a great example of of female preference or sexual selection pressure on males to be to outcompete each other. So that meant that pressure, that evolutionary pressure, meant that males tended to be more colorful because that was obviously something that the females preferred. So that gave pressure to that attribute and sort of just each one had to be better than the next, than the next. And so we end up with this amazing variety of colors and a visual display that's absolutely stunning, whereas the females are much more drab in most cases. There are definitely exceptions to that. So that's a very good example of female preference um, being an evolutionary pressure. But in other animals as well, again, it's the females who will choose mates, but the pressure might not be the sexual selection pressure might not be as obvious as we see in birds because it's not as visual. But things like um, size and behavior, if we're looking at mammals specifically, territory is a big one. Like wildebeests, they hang out in mixed small herds like this, no problem. Big herds when they have the space. But there are times when males will get territorial. And a territorial male will be attractive because it gives certain cues to the female. He can take care of this piece of land. He can take care of me. But the thing is, once the female enters his territory, and this is the same for like for impala as well, they only become territorial at one part of the year when they are going to mate, the mating season. And they become territorial. Once that female gets into that territory, she is heavily harassed, even if she didn't mean to select this male as the mate that the one that she wants to choose to mate with. So in a way, it's like a lot of sexual selective pressure can almost only works to a certain extent, and then the other side, the other sex comes in as well when it comes to mammals. And then when we think about reptiles and amphibians, not as much is known. We've definitely seen some rituals, but if we think about frogs, foam nest frogs, for example, and we've had so many wonderful foam nest frogs on the cameras. But there we have a female that deposits her eggs into the foam. And yes, males fight it out, but she doesn't get to choose who her eggs are fertilized by because theoretically, even though one male may dominate to put his sperm into that foam, others around him can deposit their sperm as well. So she doesn't necessarily have a choice. So I guess there's a bit of both, but across the animal kingdom, females choosing their mates seems to be the dominant way. Oh, let's head over to Tempe and just have a look at a giraffe. We think that he might have an injured leg. Oh no. Oh my. That's quite the growth. So Kessa just let me know that you have been seeing this guy quite a lot. You can see that it's a male, a young bull. Is it young? I'm actually not sure. I'm trying to look at the ossicones. Those are those two protrusions on the top of the head. They're quite bald. And you can definitely see the penis sheath. So it's 100% a male. But something about it looks small to me. I don't think this is a very old male. I think this is a young male. Can we get any closer to that wound? I'm not even sure it's a wound. It looks like a growth to me. Now, one giveaway is that it's very close to a joint. So it could be a collection of fluid around that joint, inflammation around the joint. But the color is telling me it's a little more than that. So I was kind of thinking of, like, I mean, I don't know if giraffes get gout, if I'm being honest. I haven't ever thought about animals in gout. But fluid retention near the joints, yeah, for sure. But it doesn't usually discolor the skin so badly. I just want to see if it looks soft or whether it looks scabby. Oh, nice job, Zumi. No, it looks hard, right? Or stiff. It doesn't look like waterfall. And it's not even on the joint. Can you see as it bends over like that, there's a gap between the growth and and the joint there. Have you seen any effects of this? Has it been limping or anything like that? Because for the most part, it kind of looks fine, apart from the growth. I just want to wait until it's done drinking because it is carrying itself in a little bit of a slouched position. It could definitely carry itself higher, lift its neck up higher. And for me, this is an indication of an animal trying to hide pain, but it is also drinking. So since he's drinking, it's not outrageous that he would be half up. That's why I want to wait until he's done drinking to figure out what's going on. So Kes has told me that the Tembe vets have been trying to have a look at this injury, growth, wound, and so far I'm guessing they haven't been able to get a close enough look because, oh, what was that? Almost like a little bug, or was it a flinch of pain? You'll find that animals don't flinch like we do when we're in pain. It's a survival thing. You can't show your weakness because if you do, you'll be singled out. It does, it doesn't look sore. Giraffes will often flick their head after they've had a drink. And this one did it, but it was a very small flick. And that flick is important because there's a lot of movement of blood, a lot of valves, a lot of pressure that goes on between the neck and the head. And so that flick can be quite useful in equalizing all those things. Well, not all of those things, but some of those things. But it's not, ooh, yeah, that's not good. I can't say I have ever seen a giraffe trip just walking. Chased by a lion, sure. But just walking, no ways. That does not look good. Absolutely, Jack DeBoer, you say, poor thing. I wonder what it is and how it could have happened. Something about it does look cancerous, but I mean, anytime we see a growth, it's so easy to jump to cancer. I have no idea. I hope that we will get an update from the vets once they are able to have a look. The problem is also how are they going to have a look? Like we did, or with binoculars, or just watching the animal, because darting an animal is risky. Darting an anesthesia is one of those things that we don't know. We know it works, but exactly how individual animals react is different. Some wake up quicker than others. Some, it might add an additional layer of risk to dart the animal. So how do they assess? I would love to know. Absolutely, Karu. We do have some bubbling casinos in the background. One of my favorite bush sounds, I think. It's for me the sound of summer. So, given that summer is now behind us, it definitely sounds good. Bowl of kittens, you'd like to know, could the giraffe's injury be due to a snake bite? Very unlikely, in my opinion. Um, a snake bite is it's quite a delicate thing. Snakes don't rip flesh, they don't. It's a very clear puncture wound. And swelling, there could definitely be swelling around the snake bite, there could be bleeding around the snake bite, but the effects that we see would most likely be neurological or hematological. They're more whole body effects as opposed to that wound, the site of that wound effect. Could it be that a snake bit I was about to say baboon. Could it be that the snake bit the giraffe and then it caused a secondary infection? Potentially, but then I still wouldn't expect to see that level of hardened discoloration around that area. So I would say snakebite is quite unlikely. Apart from that, we know that in that particular part of a giraffe's legs, so towards the ankles, the skin is very thick. It's kind of like the giraffe has permanent compression socks on. Because of its height, the blood has to travel a long way. So that portion of the leg has very thick skin to help the pressure in that area. So for snake bites to get through all of that skin, I mean, definitely it can. It's not like, it's not so thick that a snake bite couldn't get through, but it's unlikely to have the same kind of effect as it would with our thin skin getting right into our bloodstream. So I don't think that's a snake bite. I think that is a growth of some sort. And the only other thing I could think of is that maybe it's an injury that has been inflamed and has gotten an infection. But that is quite big for an infection. We are now at Vic Falls watching the baboons and an impala in the distance there. Nice afternoon sun. The sun is starting to set earlier these days. Just a touch. The bush is starting to get cooler. And the animal furs are glowing in the sun. Green 11, you say, could it have been a bug of any kind? I mean, potentially. Um, a botfly is a good example. A botfly creates an infestation in the host's skin where they will lay their larvae so the larvae can feed. But I can't recall ever seeing a botfly on a giraffe or a botfly infestation. Hmm. But it's not, sorry, I'm just thinking. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. If it is a botfly infestation in that spot, then that's definitely not fatal. But this looked a little more hectic than that. Now, there are other things that could contribute. There being multiple contributing factors. Giraffe skin disease. So that's where giraffes kind of lose a patch of their skin, a patch of their fur, and their skin is exposed, and they look a little, yeah, like they've almost got psoriasis on that patch of skin. So maybe that combined with a botfly infestation could create a sort of bulbous wound, but I'm still leaning towards growth. Maybe something the giraffe was born with. And was just very small until this point. I'm not sure. Well, hopefully we'll get an update from the vets once they get to have a look at that giraffe. And I suppose in the meantime, we just wish him well and that everything is okay. But seeing the way he kind of like was tripping, that was not a good sign. So keep an eye out on that giraffe. And if anybody knows any history about him, when if you saw that thing grow, if it was ever bleeding or fluids were coming out of that kind of stuff, that's helpful information. But hopefully we'll get a report from the vet. Anyway, everybody, it is time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. It is always wonderful to have you on board. And I won't see you for the next 2 weeks because I'll be away at Mabula, which is a reserve not very far from here. And when I come back, I'll tell you all about my bush adventures. But for now, have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.